Are you a mom who loves fun, momming, and protecting your family? If you want to meet some of the most amazing people from all over the gun world and beyond, you are in the right place. Tune in for encouragement and sometimes just courage for moms and women just like you, who are curious about shooting but are intimidated or just don't know where to start. Welcome back to part 2 of my interview with Jesse Moskel. Can't wait for you guys to find out how he got out of a Thai prison and what amazing things he's up to now. So how was he able to influence you, like getting out? Like how did that all transpire?
Oh man, I can answer that in so many ways. The truth of the matter is, other than if you're me and you're in that Thai prison, the only person that really wants you to come home is your mama. Like, I don't know if that's a tie-in here, but I mean, my mom was so concerned. She showed so much love, but outside of that, nobody really cares. You know, it's nice to think as an American that if I get into trouble abroad, then they'll have my back. But you're really on your own. And I think that's the allure of being an international traveler. You know, I think for the people that do it, that's why they do it, because you're kind of on your own. But the expectation is a little bit different than the reality there.
So how was he able to help you? Like, was he just, did he
Well,
have the power to do that? Or did he have to like reach out to other people? Like
the
further expanding your sphere of influence?
there's like literally probably 2 to 5 years of paperwork that have to be done to come home. And by the time I got through with my court case, I had a 27-year sentence. So when Newman and I started talking, it was around 4 years. And if we'd had the same contentious relationship we'd had the first 4 years, then I might be just getting home now. But luckily, he really expedited the paperwork and did a lot of extra things to see. They actually in Thailand, they actually had to fly 2 Americans and a judge over to get me. So a judge had to come over to hear the case, and they transferred the 27-year sentence to America. And then the 2 Americans flew me home on a commercial flight.
Wow.
So it's a lot of logistics, and it's the thing that nobody wants to do in the government because so hopefully that answers your question a little better.
So yeah, so basically you, and I'm just going to like break out into like bigger concentric circles. So you basically went in there. The only thing that you can control was yourself, and you decided to invest in yourself and do like reading and writing. And then you decided to reach out to this guy who had a little bit more influence and write him for 4 years. And then from there, you developed this like relationship where he was able to expand your sphere of influence and do 2 years worth of paperwork expedited to get a judge and 2 other people to come out and bring you back to the United States. Like, that's pretty amazing for just what you could do from a Thai prison, which is not exactly the Ritz-Carlton. So,
Yeah,
so that was 6 years of your life, basically. And then you got back to the States, and then did they like, did you have to like serve out more time in the States? I forgot this whole part of the story, so I'm really curious.
yeah, no, that was actually one of the coolest parts. By the way, the 2 people that came and got me, I think that helped too, because it turned out to be there was a man and a woman, and the woman introduced herself as the head of legal for the Bureau of Prisons in the U.S. So she was the number 3 person in the whole hierarchy, and the other guy was the number 2.
Wow.
So he was her boss. So the reason they came is because they wanted to go on a vacation in Thailand.
At least you were in a good country. If you were like somewhere like,
Right?
I don't know, like I'm trying to think of like somewhere really crappy, they're like, but you're like, hey, there's beaches. It's beautiful. So note to anybody, if you plan on getting arrested, go somewhere beautiful that people don't mind traveling to help you.
We're giving that information for free.
Okay. So they came out on vacation to help you, um, and she was the head of legal for the prison system, like the.
Yeah, yeah, they were the two of them basically run the Bureau of Prisons in America, which it's a big job.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. So they
what
came
was
out.
interesting?
Oh, go
Sorry,
ahead.
go ahead.
No, no, you go ahead.
It was interesting because um, okay, so I don't like prisons clearly. um, I think there's better solutions for criminals and crime, but the um, the interesting thing to me, I still respected those guys because it was something like 26 or 28 hours of flying with a layover in Tokyo to come to LA, and the last 6 hours, right? Like imagine you've been in Thailand for a week on vacation, and now you're flying home. You've got a prisoner on a commercial airline, and if something goes wrong here, it's going to be pretty bad. Um, and this man, the female and I think we were like touching heads. Both of us were conked out asleep coming into LA, and he never sat down. Like he stood like a century, like a guard would, the entire way until we landed in LA. I mean, the way he did his job, I respected that. Both of them did a good job, but
He literally stood the entire, like, I mean, obviously you have to be seated for like takeoff and landing, but like he stood there the whole time. That seems like, where are you going to go?
Well, I think it was partly to stay awake. Um, you know, because maybe he was afraid if he sat down, he'd fall asleep.
Okay. Fair.
But
Fair.
it wasn't so much that I was going to run away, but he, it was just he did his job. And he did it the right way. I've heard stories since of other prisoners going home and the guards will take them to Applebee's and get them drunk, and then they get on the plane and cause a ruckus, and the guard ends up with handcuffs by the end of the plane ride.
Oh my gosh. I got to find those people. That is the most ridiculous. Okay. Fair. Fine. So he stood the whole, well, okay. So probably he just did his job well. You came back into the States, and were you able to like go home directly? Like, how was that? Like, that must've been amazing. Just like coming back into the States.
I was so close. I was so close, and yet so far. I still had 22 and a half years in my prison sentence, and my family's on the East Coast, and I was in Los Angeles in the downtown federal lockup. And as soon as I get in there, it's like whites versus blacks versus Hispanics and all this gang culture. And I'm like, oh man. But it was nicer. I mean, everything was nice. I got in there. I didn't know anything about my case. When am I going to go home? Am I going to serve the whole 22 years? I'd heard that 1 year in a Thai prison is equivalent to 6 years in an American prison.
Wow.
So you get the idea that the Thai prison was pretty rough. Yeah, there was toilet paper. I'd seen toilet paper in 5.5 years. I
A
had
luxury.
yeah, it was quite austere.
That's
But
a light way to put it.
yeah, so American prisons, it's really, yeah, it's a big contrast from being on the other side of the planet. But I was there for 55 days, and they called me into the office and said, where do you want to go? They had a blank Greyhound bus ticket, and they just wrote in the name of the town I told them, and they said, here you go, you're done for your process.
Wow.
So that
So
was it.
sentence served, basically.
Yeah, I had 5 years on federal parole, but that was done after 3 of good behavior. So
I would imagine you would feel like good behavior is like, yeah, I can do that. Like, I'm good.
negative drug tests, not too many weapons charges,
Wow. That is amazing. And thank you for sharing that. And thank you for kind of walking me through it again, because it's just as amazing the second time I've heard it. But yeah, it's such an amazing story where you've got a really, really tough situation and only so much you can do. And it's just like that ripple effect, like being able to control things that you can control. Like if you focus your energy on the things that you can't control, then you've lost the power to really, really change the things that you can. So just being able to influence those little things, and then like just kind of having this like in retrospect, did you have like a plan, or were you just like, this is what I'm going to do, and then this opportunity opens up, and then okay, I'm going to take care of this opportunity, and then was it like a steps, or did you kind of like think, if I can just get this sphere influence wide enough, I might be able to change my circumstance?
I think that's a tough question. It'd be impossible not to dream that that would happen, but it was really a matter of focusing on the day, like staying in the day. As soon as I started projecting, it got really hard, so it very much focused me on living in this moment, appreciating what I have in this moment. And the people around me, it made me kinder. It made me a better listener. It made me a better friend, father, son. You know, I remember there was a guy called Stephen. He was an English guy. He told me a story right when I got there. He said, when you leave prison, you're gonna have this remarkable gift that most human beings never even understand, and that is, he said, before this stint, he said he had pulled up at a friend's house to pick up this girl to go out or whatever. And this might be more of a mental defect now that I think about it. But he said he was able to sit there and she wasn't there yet and he had to wait for her. And it ended up being like 2 hours. But he had no conception of that time passing. He was just sitting in his car and eventually she arrived and, how long have you been here? And I guess 2 hours. But he very much lived in the moment. And I think I understand that a little bit in my life today. So that's a gift.
That's awesome. Thank you. So what are you doing now? Like, tell me about Recovery Authors on YouTube. Like, share it with me, like what you're doing.
Oh man, thank you. So I have a partner in that one. A gifted girl in recovery called Natalie. She and I do private one-on-one coaching for people. We end up doing a lot of drug and alcohol counseling, but it's really not about that. It's a lot bigger than that because I think everybody in life goes through something difficult. And, once we get through it emotionally and we start to process it and we move on, we can move into recovery, and the way that happens for me and for my coaching students is by authoring a better story. And it really is that simple. You just tell yourself a better story. And since I was in prison, I had this sort of dream of helping people with the struggles, drug, alcohol struggles, being abused as a child, being a part of a cult. My father was a pastor in a cult for 40 years. And I've got all kinds of psychological issues, and I was never diagnosed with anything, but I probably could have been diagnosed every pill that's ever been manufactured. So instead of going that route, I went the self-medication route, and it landed me in a Thai prison. But in that Thai prison, I was able to work all that stuff out. And so now we just help people one-on-one. And when I was in the prison, it was kind of my dream, and this was a fuzzy one, but I wanted to create a resort or a retreat type place where I could bring people in groups. And so that's kind of the culmination of my biggest dream right now. You can see behind me, I just moved on to a new property that's got multiple cabins and cottages. And I showed you my hands are covered in paint today. We're working on one of the cottages up the hill. So all these things are coming to fruition in my life. And it's, a guy like me, like my life was thrown away and I threw it away. But for some reason, I'm here today. And so might as well do something great.
That is amazing. I love that. I love people helping each other. I love people taking traumatic experiences and turning them into something powerful and transformative, and not only for themselves, but then paying it forward and helping other people through those traumatic experiences. I think that could be some of the most powerful thing that you can do to touch other people's lives. I've heard many stories of, one guy that was like homeless and drug addicted and living in a ditch. And he ended up turning his life around, and now he's like a husband and a father. And how that happened was like somebody that was like hugged him, just like a soccer mom that hugged him, that just,
Right.
made him feel loved and welcomed in a church. And then the person that started that church was like this person. And then they kind of go all the way back to like the 50s of like somebody just doing something kind for like this one kid. And then
Yeah.
all the different ripple effects of how they've changed all of these people's lives. And I just love that. So thank you for sharing that. And thank you for doing Recovery Authors. I'm really excited to share your story. And then, of course, anybody out there that is struggling with addiction or knows somebody, definitely reach out to Jesse. And hopefully I'll give them your kind of information, how they can reach out to you for coaching and help. Jesse, is there anything else you want to say before I end our awesome chat?
Well, I would just like to say that it's an honor to get to spend this time. And about 15 minutes ago, it occurred to me that Mike and I's interview was so long ago. We did it on a cell phone. I don't even think Zoom had been invented then.
I think it was not Zoom, Skype, right? Like I think that was
probably was.
We're getting old, man. We're getting really old.
I said, you're not though. I think I need to get a bottle of whatever you're drinking there.
You know what? I'm actually, I have a podcast coming out with an interview on somebody that's been helping me stave off that uncontrolled careen into middle age. So stay tuned for that one.
It's gunpowder in it. All right.
No gunpowder, yet, but if it was, I'd try it. Awesome. Jesse, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. You guys get out there. If you've got problems with addiction or struggle with that, definitely reach out to Jesse or get some help. But we just want to perpetuate that and encourage you guys to be strong, to overcome your fear, use your sphere of influences to change your life, and get out there and be not afraid. Great job. You made it to the end. You are one tough mother. If you enjoyed this podcast and want to support the work that we do and keep the good lovin' coming, subscribe, rate, and review on iTunes, Spotify, wherever you're listening. What's that? You're one of those crazy mother followers that wants more of this nonsense? You got it. Subscribe to the Moms Love Guns YouTube channel, follow us at Moms Love Guns on Instagram, and join our free private Facebook group to connect with other women just like you in an encouraging and non-judgmental community. If you want to share even more love, share your new favorite community with a friend or all of your friends, maybe even a few enemies, just to be safe. Get out there, overcome your fears, be not afraid. You have got this.